It is Tears Day, Tuesday, the second broadcast day of the week for the Ocelli Effect, and extremely grateful to have with me Christy Aphrodite, who was with me last week. Had not been with me in a while, but we've been friends a long time, and gotta say, it's good to get into, I don't know, healthy and truly, okay, here comes a bad word, sustainable things, things that make sense, what nature offers immediately for the things that, I don't know, other people seem to make businesses out of and then tend to make poisonous things with, etc., etc. Anyway, enough out of my mouth. Christy, first off, how you doing tonight? We're a little late going live, but no big deal. Right?
There always something's gonna freaking happen last minute, but I am awesome and I'm super excited to be here, Chuck. Thank you. And I want to get this out of the way. I'm not a medical doctor. Do not take anything I say as medical advice. And I'm talking to a broad spectrum of people, right? So I do not know your condition. I do not know any pre-existing conditions or medications you're on or even herbal therapies you're on. And because of that, I kind of took a back seat giving this type of advice because I don't want to kill anyone. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just putting it out there. If you're new to herbs, essential oils, or anything we're going to talk about, don't just jump out there and do it. And don't just end with what I'm going to tell you tonight. Research thoroughly yourself. Check with your medical professional before you start. And when you do get started, or if you do get started, don't take 10 herbs that I said tonight tomorrow, right? Like, introduce each one, if you have no experience with it, individually and start from there. So that being said, I want to say, do not take any of my advice. I am not a medical doctor. And is that good enough for the and if you do not believe that you have the power to heal yourself, I am sure I'm going to say something tonight that's going to make you hate me. So that's fair. Probably the best disclaimer I can come up with tonight.
Well, hey, I'll just add one other thing to give a real basic example. Grapefruit and grapefruit juice is not a bad thing in and of itself, but if you are taking certain medications, it can kill you.
Right. And Chuck, I'm glad you brought up grapefruit because, again, we promote, or I'll just speak for myself, I promote self-responsibility. So whether you're taking pills from a doctor or experimenting with herbs and oils in nature, thoroughly research it. And I'm glad you brought up grapefruit because there are foods like that not only can interact negatively to your detriment with certain medications, there's also things that can help. Our topic tonight is headache and pain remedies. So citrus is known to cure certain type of headaches, but it's also known to cause certain type of headaches in certain people, right? And so this is true basically across the board because number one, we're not the same. But of all the things we have in common, which is, food, sunshine, sleep, water, another thing we have in common is that we've all had headaches or a headache or pain at some time. So just because we all have that common doesn't mean it's the same cause or the same cure. So again, keep in mind, I'm speaking from a broad spectrum of people with varying conditions. I'm going to say it again. I'm not a medical doctor. Do not take any of this advice without thoroughly researching. Okay.
I'll give you a quick example too, just because I am commonly affected with headaches, but my cause may not be the same as somebody else's. I've got more than one. At one time I broke my neck. Believe me, that gives you headaches.
Right.
And also I've got an eye problem, which I'm light sensitive and this and that. If I get eye strain, I get headaches.
Right.
And I'm constantly, I was getting hit with migraines when my prescription was off on my glasses, okay? And I just kind of turn it over to you and you say, okay, somebody's fed up and they just want some kind of relief. How would they begin exploring what it is they should look at. I mean, first you got to evaluate.
As I'm sure many of your listeners know, you have a genetic condition, and we're going to talk about that separately, because when it comes to headaches, or if people come to me for headache or pain, and I'm a holistic health coach, and I spell that with a W, whole, because I look at the whole person. And as you mentioned, there are many different causes to headaches. So the first thing that I, or any true health practitioner, or even yourself, right, which I know you're doing, Chuck, and so, but I'm talking to everyone now, you first want to assess the root. Okay, is it eye strain? Is it allergies? Is it stress? Is it a high blood pressure? Is it an infection? Is it a concussion? Is it a nutritional deficiency? Is it an overabundance of toxins? Is it a hormonal imbalance? And maybe not necessarily a hormonal imbalance, but fluctuating hormones, right? Or is it a hunger headache? Are you hangry? Right? Is it certain odors or aromas, or is it dehydration? And yes, you mentioned food, diet, things like that, right? All of those things and more can be factors in the reason that you, not you, Chuck, but in general, are having a headache, right? And so I give myself headaches sometimes when I work too much and I don't eat all day or drink enough water. And then by like 10, 11 or something, I'm like, oh my God, I'm hungry. And I'm like ready to pass out. You know what I mean? And that's my fault, right? That's something that I can control. So number one, you want to find the root, right? Number two, you want to first go about what you can do to reduce that cause. So if that causes stress, if you're stressed about money or stressed about, you know what I mean? There's certain techniques that we can do to get rid of stress that can also relieve headaches, like simple cranial massage, or right at the, at the base of your skull and that little crease right there. Magnesium oil is something that helps people with headaches and pain, whether you rub it on your skull or whatever. Or you could simply eat more magnesium-rich foods, right? Like, say, dark leafy greens, kale, spinach, legumes, nuts. And let me also say this about nuts. Most nuts we get in the grocery store are already molded, right? So, and they cover it up with different flavorings, and yeah, they're delicious and stuff, but there are lots of undiagnosed nut allergies. But if you were going to get magnesium-rich foods, then cashews, almonds, peanuts, provided they're safe for you, are good sources. And of course, bananas, right?
Right.
And also I want to say that B vitamins and even bee pollen, but B vitamins in general, are known to sometimes help with headaches. And if you want to up your, say, B vitamin rich foods, it's incidentally the exact same foods I just mentioned that are magnesium rich.
As far as massage goes, you talked about the base of the neck. That's true. The base of the skull, excuse me. That is a truly good spot. There's the temples, that sort of area, the temporal area. But also, weird little thing that I learned is that, quite frankly, with the eye strain, a lot of times if you simply take the tip of your thumb and you push it upward kind of firmly between your eyes and ride it up between your eyes, a lot of times that will alleviate some of the headaches too, some of the pounding.
Absolutely. I was definitely going to bring up different massages and also pressure points, right?
Right.
And so we're on the radio, so it's going to be hard to show you, but you just mentioned one, right? Between your eyes,
right,
on your forehead, your temples. There's in your hands as well, between your thumb and just look it up, right, and find out exactly. And also on your feet. But I just want to before I forget, because I was talking about the magnesium and B-rich foods, I want to bring up the herbs that people have been putting in food traditionally since the beginning of time, right? Herbs that anyone can grow. So like basil, marjoram, oregano, thyme, tarragon, and of course dandelions, mints, rosemary, dill, cilantro, all of those herbs that we put in our food, right, can help. And if you want to go look at my Twitter feed, you can see the difference between my fresh hand-picked leaf-by-leaf herbs versus the organic in the store or even the health food store and other popular natural food providers. And there is a distinct difference. So dead herbs don't heal, right? So either grow your own or buy some fresh or hook up with somebody like me, or I'm sure there's somebody like me in your area somewhere, right? Farmers markets, things like that. But actually, before we get into these remedies, I should have just mentioned water. Are we even getting enough water?
Always a problem.
And believe it or not, I'm not an anti-fat person. Healthy fats are good for your cells, which will help decrease inflammation and also the protective coating on your cells, right? The myelin sheath. So, okay, so getting back to culinary herbs, because those are the easiest that everyone's familiar with, right? Again, rosemary, thyme, marjoram.
The spice rack of anybody cooking in a
Right.
Mediterranean
Yeah.
way
Absolutely.
is basically it.
Even
yeah.
sage. So if you have those fresh herbs on hand, and I'm talking fresh, right? Because that's what they use in ancient Ayurveda techniques that work. You can use, just squish up some leaves in your super hot water and then maybe squeeze a lemon. And depending on the herb, you might need a little honey in it. And I'll just give like a couple little recipes that anyone can do. And again, this is a super ancient Ayurveda technique that you want to use dried ginger for this, not fresh ginger. And I'm not talking dried from the powder from the grocery store, like an actual root that's been dried properly. And then muddle that up, crush that up and add a little milk, a little bit at a time until it turns into a paste. And then just rub that on your head, okay, like your temples, your forehead, or wherever the headache is, right? And you can do the same thing with multiple herbs. Again, you can also do that with, say, cinnamon or even cloves. Now, if you wanted to use some of these ingredients as essential oils, what you really need to understand first is more is not better, okay? And I'll give you an example. 1 drop of peppermint essential oil is the equivalent of 40 cups of peppermint tea, right? And of course, we're talking about peppermint tea in those little baggies at the store. Don't do that. If you have headaches and you're suffering and you need, contact me. You can't get the kind of herbs I have anywhere. I'm just saying. So, and I have been able to help a lot of friends that were buying, the same type of teas in stores. And I'm like, yeah, nah, dude, let me send this to you. Okay, so there's that. All of these herbs I just mentioned, whether used wholly or as an essential oil, are also going to assist in memory, right? And clarity and things like that. Sometimes people just get headaches because they're mad that they can't remember words, like some of us after some brain damage. And, so there's that. But let's say you want to introduce essential oils into your headache or pain remedies. You can't, first of all, be sure you're getting a good quality, not mass marketed brands or multi-level marketing brands, or grocery store or Walmart brands, okay? Now, you can use those for like cleaning products or bug sprays or something like that, right? But not to use internally. Now, peppermint is one of the best, and I just want to say peppermintgym.com if you want the very best peppermint oil in the world. So if you can either inhale that, right, nice and slow with both of your nostrils, one at a time, or rub it on your temples, or on your sinuses, or even on your feet, or behind your ears, or really any pressure point, but I just like to put it right on. In most cases, peppermint and lavender, most cases are safe to put directly on your skin. In any other case, you want to use a carrier oil, especially if you're working with something painful like oregano or marjoram or something like that. So whether you're inhaling them, which could help, you could also put them on your skin, mix them with an oil, or wherever you have the pain or inflammation, right? Because these herbs aren't just headache, clarity, focus herbs. They reduce inflammation, and inflammation is the one common denominator in all types of pain, right? So you want to think anti-inflammatory. What can I do to, number one, stop causing it, right? And people might not want to hear this, but food sensitivities, I briefly touched upon that, but gluten insensitivity or lactose sensitivity, okay? And as much as people believe in raw milk, and I get that, it is definitely better, and I'm not knocking it, but we're not the same. And not everyone can handle dairy products, no matter how clean it is. Right. And the only way you're actually going to know if that's a contributor is if you cut it out of your diet for like 4 weeks, right? There's something, I forget who coined it, but it's basically called an elimination diet. And you remove just one item from your diet at a time, right? So, and I hesitate to use the term gluten intolerance because it's not gluten, okay? It's the chemicals that they put in it that got processed in your product that's the problem, okay? So, you know, differentiate between that. But, right. You know, so if you want to try like a little elimination diet, definitely start with milk, okay? Dairy, cheese, yogurt, cheese for 4 weeks, okay? And then see. And if that doesn't make a difference, then eat your damn dairy. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and
okay.
then do the same with grains and other things that could cause it. And again, I want to mention things that can help people, like citrus, can also hurt people. Caffeine can help headaches in certain people. It can also cause headaches in certain people. So use all of this information with caution. So I'm going to mention some other maybe lesser known herbs. Things like even mullein or wormwood or mugwort could perhaps help reduce headaches or pain. And but you know, again, use caution. Any herb I put out there, use caution. Don't just jump in and try this without consulting with your medical professional or doing your own due diligence. You have to listen to your body and your intuition. Also, when starting new herbs or health regimens, it could, regimens, it could trigger what's known as a detox or healing crisis. And sometimes that will cause headaches because you're now pulling all of that gunk that's been hiding, you know, whether it's in your bowels or your arteries or wherever it is, right? The heavy metals, and they're now flowing through. And so that can cause headaches. And that also causes people to stop regimens within the first week or less because they're like, oh, I have a stomach ache, or I have a headache.
Yeah,
well, you're
bluntly,
supposed to have that because you need to get rid of it.
Right. Now, bluntly, just to say something bluntly here, a lot of people experience diarrhea or loose stool when they first do this, and that's a sickly kind of feeling, and they get driven off because it's like, this doesn't feel right. And no, it doesn't. But it is part of the process that your body's going through. And by the way, you got to be careful about that too, because dehydration is an obvious issue if you're having that happen. But it could be your body needs to do that for a little while to clear some things out because you've now introduced this new thing in there. It feels a little counterintuitive though, because obviously it's like, I'm eating this, it's giving me this, must be it's not good. You got to give it a little bit of time.
You have to try something for at least, you know, a couple weeks in a row and work through that, right? And if you're having diarrhea, eat more bananas or whatever. And again, that's a magnesium and so it's going to help with the headaches and, you know, all of that stuff as well. So, yeah. I hope that we've put enough caution out there to just, again, do not try this at home. If this is your first time, check with your health professional. And if you are starting with herbs, start with one at a time, give it time, see how you react. If you have a headache and diarrhea or constipation or foul odor like sweat or breath, etc., know that that's a normal process of detox. And that's why I always recommend to my clients is when you're starting something like, say, Modifilan or something like, don't do it on a work day. Don't start Monday morning and go to work. You know what I mean? Like, if you do have a normal job, then you're going to want to start that shit Friday night, right? So, because if you have to, then you can stay in bed Saturday and Sunday. Or if you have to be close to a bathroom, right? You're not in an office or, say, a bus driver or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to foods, again, remember that some things that might be good for the bulk of people or someone else might not be good for you. You could have a hidden allergy. You know what I'm saying? So So find the root, whatever it is for you. And that's where the elimination diet comes in, you know, and of course, is it a one-time headache or is this something that happens every day for the last 10 years? Right? So there are so many factors and if anybody needs any, you know, specific help, then feel free to contact me, but we're just going to go through, or I'll try to go through as much as I can. So I mentioned those super common herbs, even like catnip. I didn't mention that. But that's also something that could help. Ashwagandha and Usnea, both of those helped me. And you remember my Florida 8-month-long headache with no sleep and such. And also, speaking of sleep could be a factor in headaches. Are you getting enough or are you even getting too much, right? And let's see, feverfew is another good one. So it's not only good to reduce, you know, people know it more as reducing fever and colds and things like that, but it's also a known headache remedy. And then at least 2 more that I can think of right now that you might be able to find right outside. Well, feverfew could be one, but butterbur, and that likes wet places. And the leaves they can get very big, like a foot, but when the plant's really small, the leaves are kind of heart-shaped-ish, kind of a cross between a violet and a geranium leaf. And it can have, so it's like a coneflower kind of thing with lots of multiple little flowers, like a firework. And they're tiny, either white or whitish and pink or yellowish whitish, and that's pretty commonly found everywhere. And then willow. We hear of white willow bark, which is known to have salicylic acid, which is the known component in aspirin. And I just want to say, anything man can do, God/nature can do better. So when man is taking a component out of something, it's not the way nature intended. And that's why we have problems like stomach issues in taking aspirins and things like that. So you can get that same salicin or salicylic acid from white willow bark. And don't stop here, because if you don't know what the hundreds of species of willow are, you can literally use any willow, a weeping willow, whatever. And all you have to do is just, you know, those beautiful long viney branches, just cut off, I don't know, depending on how big the branch is, but say it's like the width of one of your fingers or thumb, depending on your size, then cut that like, say, an arm's length long. And then you'll want to, you know, just kind of shred it in half or cut it in half kind of thing, pull it apart, and then you'll get all that middle bark. It's kind of like a whitish, yellowish, sawdusty looking, you know, material. I can't come up, mulchy looking material. And from there, you can just make a tea right away or dry it out for future use, or use the fresh herb and tincture it so you have all the headache medicine you need for a really long time. And yeah, you could also, same thing with butterbur or whatever, same process, or any of those other herbs. Now, I know we're out of time, so I do just want to at least spend 5 minutes on, say, emotional, spiritual, and biological or environmental causes, right? Sure. So biological cause, like in your instance, the genetic disorder that causes the eye strain and such. However, I do want to say this. Not all disabilities are disabilities. And I did a video a long time ago, disability versus diffability. So a lot of these things that we have traditionally labeled as, say, detriments or disabilities, they're actually a superpower, right? And so for your case, it obviously, if you're having an eye strain headache, stop straining your eyes. Take that break. So, and for other people, this is a lot. Okay, emotional, spiritual causes of headaches could be, and just ask yourself, whoever's listening, in your own time, when the headache comes about, and obviously this would be not a 10-year in a row long headache, right? But if something comes up, like, how are you feeling about yourself and your true power? Are you feeling not good enough? Are you feeling like, and in a lot of times, believe it or not, headaches can be caused by still trying to acquire the love of your mother, okay? So is there any hidden trauma that we haven't addressed? The need or perceived need to have to prove yourself, or inner conflict of maybe you're thinking too much and you need to get out of your head and into your heart, or maybe you're in a situation where you're afraid to use your words, so the headaches are an excuse to not deal with it, right?
Back pain can come up the same way. I hate psychiatrists,
absolutely, and autoimmune. Yeah.
Well, that's true, but back pain is one of those things where I suffer from that chronically, but when things are more emotionally difficult or I'm carrying something around, so to speak, literally it increases my back pain.
Okay. Right. So again, talk to yourself. When the pain comes on, don't try to fight it, right? You become what you fight, and focus. Everything you focus on is going to expand, right? So when the pain comes up, your body is literally a roadmap to your feelings, your spiritual and emotional state. Okay, so each organ or each pain means something else. So if you start to treat your body half as well as you treat your car and get the right fluids and the right nutrients in there, and when the check engine, the pain light comes on, say, dude, thanks for being there. What am I doing that's causing it? Okay, and what am I missing? And again, it's not always physical, and especially for empaths, not all pain is your pain. Okay, right. So that's where we have to become mindful. And when we want to like cry in misery over this or that, been there, done that, dude. Okay, so when we want to do that, let's try to be mindful and give thanks for our healing. And so let's say your head hurts. Well, guess what? Your feet are still working, right? Your digestive system is still working. Your vision is working. Your sinuses are working. You can still hear, right? You probably have running water. So focus on what you can be thankful for. And I swear to you, this is no hokey pokey kumbaya, stuff. This will help. And give thanks for your healing already. And even if the negative thoughts come up, replace them with something like, my head feels fantastic. And I just love its ability to overcome anything and work effortlessly and whatever mumbo jumbo you make up in your own head, right? And if you want to go a step further, repeat it out loud or sing it, because believe it or not, and I have personal experience with this. In fact, everything I talk about, I have personal experience with, or I'm not going to talk about it. So that is one thing that we all can do. When you go to bed, ask yourself, what am I missing? What am I not paying attention to? Do I have an unhealed or repressed trauma, etc.? And also I want to mention, since we did talk about essential oils, yes. Essential oils, when your aroma, your sense of scent is directly connected to your limbic system. That's where all your emotional memories are stored. Okay, so that's one of the major reasons how you can get instant relief, right? And again, if you're in a situation that's causing it, remove yourself from that situation, right? And if it's, whether it's a perfume, right? People get chemical induced headaches, or walking down the laundry aisle in the store. Don't do it. Cover your nose or replace, you know what I'm saying? There's that. So since we're out of time, I'm just going to go through again, like a bunch of different herbs that people can research on their own that might already be in their kitchen cabinet or in their yard.
Now, one second, just before you do that, because I just want to throw one thing in here, because you're going to laugh, I think. You know me well. So here's the thing. I would also suggest, when you're talking about gratitude and embracing the good that is, even if there is some negativity. Here's the other thing. You have a choice about getting upset about things. Okay, you're grateful for this and that, but you're upset about this and this and this. I make a value judgment about that, and I do this. You've heard me do it out loud in private interactions, where I've said, you know what good is this going to do me to allow myself to get worked up, to invest energy in this by getting upset, by being disturbed by this? Does this serve a good or a purpose? I'm not saying that getting upset doesn't sometimes serve a purpose, but it is always helpful to evaluate that and say to yourself, at least this is, my experience. Again, does this serve a purpose? Does it do me any good to get upset about this? I'm just saying that's one of those things to do too. So you're going to give us a list of herbs, and then I'll play the music and let you out. Of course, we went a little over the hour, and I took a little extra of your time, but we started a little late. Really appreciate it, Christy Aphrodite. And during the break, you're going to hear a little My True Essence commercial. Okay. And that you can go there and get a hold of a lot of different things. But Christy's going to tell you about some of the stuff you can do for yourself if you can find it, and the likelihood that you can find it just about right under your feet if you walk outside your door is pretty high. So go ahead, Christy.
Right. And I also just want to say, most everything we've talked about tonight, I have in stock at My True Essence. And I can make special order items with things that maybe are not on the website. There are certain things. If you just want a headache remedy, like right now, pain be gone, dude. Doesn't matter if you get the Dream Cream or the roller bottle. Flow Free also helps with that. And again, like all those herbs or infused oils, tinctures and vinegars and things we talked about, I do have. So that being said, I want to teach you all how to do all this as well. So I kind of refer to easy medicine, which I consider a pamper yourself while healing approach, and then hard medicine. So just to rehash, some of the easy medicine things would be change your location, right? Massage your head, your temples, pressure points, etc., posture, breathing. In fact, breathing.com, I had him on the show like a million years ago. He was really good, and you can go to the site and find hundreds of different techniques and things that they can literally solve and stop right now, okay? And different, even yoga positions. And again, affirmative prayer, the easy stuff, and taking a bath, right? So you can do that with Epsom salt and essential oils or however much you want to pamper yourself. And then, of course, smelly good stuff like aromatherapy. And so what kind of aromas can and you know what I say will help with headaches, because there is tons of government and science-based research proving it and the studies. So that would be like peppermint, oregano, clove, cedar, sandalwood, rose, melissa, aka lemon balm, all different types of mint, from pineapple, chocolate, apple, traditional, including even spearmint. Did I say nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, basil, rosemary, thyme, sage, anise, even vanilla. Okay, so you can use all of those as a spice, as an oil, as a tincture, turn into your own cream, or eat them. And then the other herbs that are not really eaten as much as that would be, let's see, wormwood, feverfew, butterbur, chamomile, bee pollen, cayenne, turmeric, ginger, garlic, lemon juice, lime juice, and even the essential oils, right? And again, they're all, each of these, whether you use them as the herb or essential oil, they're not just going to eliminate headaches. They are also antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, in some case help cleanse and stimulate the pineal gland in the case of, say, frankincense and sandalwood, all right, and cedarwood. Okay, and cedarwood also helps produce natural melatonin, so you can also get a better night's sleep. And environmental factors, I guess this would also be considered easy medicine, would be Wi-Fi, turn it off at night, turn your phone on the airplane setting, okay, and you will be shocked at what a better night's sleep you get. And yeah, so nature, of course, grounding, of course, fresh air, of course.
Sleep
and
outside
then more
once in a
hard
while.
medicine stuff would be like the tinctures,
Yep.
or even cannabis paste, which we didn't really get into tonight, but I do have videos on my site that can, or not my site, sorry, on YouTube, that a tutorial in off-grid, and then a tutorial with power and a crock pot and an oven. And
Right.
so if you have, like, say, chronic headaches and all of these other things didn't help, and maybe and by the way, I forgot to mention, these herbs also prevent cytokine storms, okay? So there's a lot more benefits by incorporating these herbs into your diet, right? Let your food be your medicine. And the more you switch from unnatural, allergen-causing, inflammation-causing diet to nature and get rid of the middleman, everything's going to feel better, not just the pain and not just the headaches.
Getting away from the electricity is nice too. To be
Yes.
honest with you, if you could just go somewhere where there isn't electricity, I know that's kind of counterintuitive to a lot of people, but
No,
that actually helps.
thank you for saying that, because that's something else I wanted to mention. Sidney Ross Singer coined the phrase, well, a few, but vibroacoustic disease. And, you know, he's a Harvard graduate and like all this, you know, doctor stuff. And he's pretty well read, but he discovered that vibroacoustic disease is caused, and again, can cause headaches, inflammation, hormone disruptions and such, by things that we don't even think of. So like driving in a car, your refrigerator, TV, like any electronics plugged in, because they're putting out all these low, what do they call, ultra low, you know, the vibration. So we can't hear it, but our cells do. But yeah, you know what? If you're not active and for some reason you can't get out to nature or whatever. Just go outside, take your shoes off, jump on a trampoline, get active, because in a lot of cases, exercise can help, right?
Right. Right. And the frequency of most things that are electrical in nature, the frequency is generally just enough off that it is kind of harmful. And I've gone over that with electromagnetic frequencies on this show with other people that were actually, engineers and things, to explain what that is. And I don't necessarily fully understand it. I understand frequency because I understand music, but and I understand acoustics, but not necessarily, how all things work that are electrical and magnetic, etc. But I have a basic idea. And that's one of those other great things to avoid. So we've actually taken you way over your time.
It's okay. And I'm sorry I get so excited everything you bring up, because I'm like, oh man, how could we not talk about that? Music, right?
Right.
So this would be easy medicine thing, right? So whether that's a dark room or listening to music that makes you happy. And speaking of music, there's a lot of music that like I have loved and even sang or rapped or whatever for years. And think of the lyrics we're repeating. You know what I'm saying? So one thing I do is like, of course, if you're depressed and your lover just left, you want to cry to all these love songs. Oh, I'm nothing without you, or like all these things, right? But again, you're contributing to your pain. What are you focusing on? So either switch the lyrics and sing louder than you're hearing it, or turn it off and go make up your own lyrics, right? Again, so whether it's a prayer or listening to music that you love and makes you feel good, or classical, or some kind of nice drum beat, or a singing bowl thing, or things like that can help. So I'm glad you brought up vibration. Be mindful of where you are spending your energy, right? If your headache comes on after watching an hour of CNN, well, duh, turn it off, right? But
well,
if it comes on after you go through the McDonald's drive-through,
true.
Duh, don't do that.
Well, the other thing, too, is that, when people talk about vibration, they're generally talking about, people around them and things like that when they get into this. And as much as I hate some of the people that discuss this because they have no clue what they're actually saying, there is a reality to who you surround yourself with. We are energetic beings. We do actually have, electrical frequencies, basically, that are part of our system, too. And if you surround yourself with individuals who are projecting and participating in things that are not, conducive to your frequency, you will find that it will begin to drag you in their direction. And that's an influential thing. Beyond psychology, there is an influential kind of atmosphere that gets built around certain people. And you know about it when you see it, but you don't know how to articulate it. It's a reality as well. So you got to consider all of the external input going into the system, whether it is psychological, spiritual, or physical.
Right.
And, of course, we didn't cover it all. But because my second hour guest didn't show up, we were able to go over a bit. And,
wow. Okay, well, I'm not in a hurry, man. I just want to be thorough. And I feel like I tried to get through everything so fast that I probably left some things out, You know what? That reminds me. There are other herbs and oils I did not bring up, and those would consist of the flowers, like rose, lavender, hops, okay? But be careful if you're a male. Too much hops causes an excess of estrogen, and then, getting back to those hormonal imbalances or fluctuations we talked about earlier, right? And a couple other flowers that left in my brain for a minute are bergamot, and geranium, and clary sage. So, if you have a yard, plant some of those things, and if you need help utilizing them, I haven't, videos that talk about it, or, I'll help. There's, shit posted everywhere. So, poop.
It's all right. Hey, look,
because I'm a big girl now.
That's all right. I got it. And everybody poops anyway. Okay, so Christy Aphrodite, mytrueessence.net, ChristyAphrodite.com. Those are the websites, and they'll be in the show notes. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Every time I put it on my face, I'm able to breathe just a little bit deeper.
What are people saying about mytrueessence.net?
I'm going to tell you something serious, man. I just want to tell you, listeners, I bought some of that Modifilan from Christy, and she made me up some of this emu oil mixed with some other stuff. I don't know what's in it, but I like the way it smelled. And I started putting it on, rubbing it on my foot, rubbing it on my knee, and like the second day, I didn't, I just noticed it. I'm walking around, I'm like, damn, my knee is loose.
I can tell you that oil you gave me helped me with my carpal and my shoulder problem. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be working.
My ankles started to really be pesky and bother me. And I'm telling you, the pain just went away. Essential oils rule!
And when I put that on, it's like my skin came alive.
mytrueessence.net.